Hi everyone, it's Nicole and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to do a little challenge. I've tried a lot of these types of challenges in the past, but they were too high pressure for me to actually achieve something. So today, I made up a low pressure challenge that is going to force me to pick up books from my actual bookshelf. So, as you know, or maybe you don't know, the beauty community on YouTube has a type of video called Shopping My Makeup Stash, which means picking up makeup from the collection that they own instead of buying something new and hyped. And this is something that I want to do with my bookshelf. I'm going to choose 6 or 7 books that I will try to read by the end of the year. This way, I wouldn't be pressured time-wise, and also I would have a good enough TBR to choose from because I'm definitely a seasonal and a mood reader. Now, without further ado, let's just go to my shelves together and see what interesting things they are hiding. Here's an overview of my main shelves. They were fully handmade by my mom and her nephew. They just bought some slabs of wood and then created this. Afterward, we painted it white. The little reading nook is also handmade. The top is removable, so you have an access to the heating system. It gets really hot during winter month, and I actually don't spend as much time on it as I expected initially, although it was my long time dream to have this. I also have this tiny section here under my TV. It mostly has newish books that I bought recently. If you've seen my last book haul, you recognize a lot of them. Initially, I wanted to fit them on my shelf, and I have the space, but I decided to leave them because they actually look nice. And also, when I put things on my shelf, I forget that I have it. This way, it's more visually appealing to me and I'm more excited about them. We're going to start with the newest additions to my collection. I do buy a lot of fantasy and historicals and I'm not always in the mood for them, so it's always a little bit difficult to pick something from my shelves. And at the same time, I may have to account for 3 different seasons: summer, fall, and winter, because I'm picking books for the rest of the year. I definitely don't want to read this because, you know, it's big and I'm not in the mood. But I do want to read this for fall. I think it might be very much my cup of tea. I think it's about a cult and sacrifices and spooky shit like that, but it's still not a horror. So I think I'm gonna go with that for fall. Also, out of the books that I bought recently, I want to read The True Queen by Zhang Cho because I loved the first book. It's a fantasy, but it's not an intimidating fantasy. It's short-ish compared to other fantasies, so I think I'm gonna enjoy this. Let's put this back. Here I have some Jane Austen that I do not want to read, and I have not read A Natural History of Dragons, which is also a fantasy of manners, but we already have 1 book in the same genre, and I think that's enough books to choose from. I'm very apprehensive, but I'm very much attracted to the 9th house here. It seems like a big commitment to me because, you know, it's a beloved book, but at some point I have to read it. So I think we're going to choose it. Okay, so we have 3 books. And I'm thinking maybe Girl Serpent Thorn for summer. It seems like a fantasy that is not particularly difficult to get into, so let's do this. Let's get to the main shelves. This shelf surprisingly has mostly the books that I have read. The only book that I have not read from these is The Sealed Letter by Emma Donoghue, which is a Sapphic historical, And you know that I love a sci-fi historical, but it's so thick and it's such a commitment that I just can't. What do we have here? Here we have Night Film, which I've read, Cersei, which I've read, The Little Stranger, which I've read. I have not read this, but kind of don't want to. Read The Secret History, love it. Jacqueline Carey, I love her, but I don't remember much from the first book, and I will have to reread it to read this one. Atlas Grace, not in the mood for that. Blameless, I've read. Children of Blood and Bone, I DNF'd. Poison Study, maybe. Let's put a pin on that. I'm not going to touch it yet, but I will remember that I have it, hopefully. What else? Sorry, I'm using stairs. On this shelf, we have some stuff that I've read as well. This is a very exciting series for me. I really want to get into it, but I don't have the first book, so I have to find an ebook or in Scribd, or I have to buy it if Scribd doesn't carry it. So I can't get into this yet. This is a book about Helen Keller, and it's written by Helen Keller. It's an autobiography. I have not read this. When I'll be in the mood for nonfiction, maybe. Homegoing by Agassi. I really want to read this, and I wanted to read this for ages, but, and there's always a but, I kind of don't feel like reading it right now. The Shadow of the Wind, I've heard it's phenomenal, but also not in the mood for it. Rainbow Rowell, I've read this. Fingersmith, I've read this. The Last Policeman, I have not read this, but it sounds fascinating. It's an apocalyptic book about a guy who's in police and who's trying to close his last case because everyone is going to die. As an Education of Cameron Post, my favorite book. Fanny Flagg, my favorite. And Bishop, God's War by Cameron Hurley, and a book by Richard K. Morgan, which is like second or third in the series. I have the first one, I'm just not in the mood for it. I'm thinking actually of picking up the Black Jewels trilogy by Anne Bishop. It's an omnibus. It seems a bit terrifying, but I am into Anne Bishop. I love her work, and also it's a fantasy, paranormal fantasy with some romance in it, and I think I will definitely be in the mood for it summer, fall, and winter. So this is a really good choice for me. Let's do it. Wow, it's very heavy. I only have space for 2 more. What do we have here? I actually can't reach it with my eyes, so I'm looking into the camera. Swords Point, I've read it. Daughter of Smoke and Bone, I've read it. Ellis Smith, How to Be Both, I want to read it. The Agency, don't want to read it. Max Gladstone, 3 Parts Dead, I've read it. Donna Tartt, The Little Friend, no thank you. Kate Atkinson's Life After Life, no thank you. The Goldfinch, it's such a commitment. No. I've read this. Okay, so that was not a particularly interesting shelf. Let's look into this basket that holds mostly historical romances. This 2 books I've read and I enjoyed them. I've read this and I didn't like it that much. I have Joanna Lindsay here and I'm cautious of her. I have some Julianne Julianne Long. I'm very attracted to this book by Nora Roberts. It's Divine Evil, and I think it's supposed to be a dark, suspenseful romance, and I'm kind of into that for fall. So I think we're gonna go with that. Here we have a variety of things. Ilona Andrews books, Patricia Briggs, some more Laini Taylor, Jacqueline Carey, Anne Patchett. I have some Michael Cunningham, Kate Beaton, I've read that. Once again, another book by Lynn Fleveling in that same series. I have Rebel Angels by Libba Bray, but I don't have the first book. I don't have anything that particularly excites me on that shelf. Let's look at this one. A Sudden Death by Laura Enrique, Aristotle and Dante, Hail the Nicolagraphet. I'm intimidated by that book. Some 𝕊𝕙𝕙𝕻𝕙𝕻𝕻, some Scott Lynch, and yeah, nothing that jumps at me immediately. Let's move up. Sarah Waters, I've read this obviously. Patricia Briggs, Elizabeth Hoyt, Wicked Intentions, maybe actually. N.K. Jemisin. I do have to finish off that series, but I don't have enough motivation. Cashil's Dart, I'm in the middle of it, cannot finish it. The Miniaturist, Marlene Taylor, Some Name of the Wind. Someone needs to strap me to something and leave me to die unless I read The Name of the Wind. Then I will read it. The Fifth Season, I've read it, loved it. Nightwood by Jonah Barnes. It's a gay classic and I have to read it, but not today. I've picked 6 books that I think I'm gonna be in the mood for. Let me just go through them and tell you why I decided to go with them and not other things from my shelf. The first 3 books I'm in the mood for right now. I'm gonna read them sooner rather than later, so late summer, early fall. The first one is The True Queen by Zhen Cho. I recently shown you this book in a book haul video. If you have not seen it, I'm going to link it. This is a lighter fantasy. It's a historical fantasy of manners, and I really enjoy both of these things. Plus, it also has a sapphic romance in it, I think. I hope. I've heard. And I am very much into the idea of reading it before I lose steam and before I lose the enthusiasm for it. Hopefully you'll see it soon enough on my channel in my wrap-ups. Next one is also from a recent book haul. It's Girl Serpent Thorn by Melissa Bashardust. It's a lighter fantasy as well, heavy on the romance, a fairy tale retelling, has a love triangle, has a sapphic romance. What else do I need? Nothing. I'm very much in the mood for it right now. I know that it's about a princess whose touch is poison. Basically, everyone she touches dies. And it's a very interesting concept that reminds me of Greek mythology about King Midas. So, excited for this one. I also had to choose The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I'm very scared and anxious about this book. It feels like I must enjoy it, and if I won't enjoy it, it would be a huge disappointment. I don't know why I feel that way, I simply do, and I have to expel this notion from my head because not liking this book is not gonna make me into a disappointment, and no book should be this intimidating in my head. I feel like it's one of the reasons why I've been postponing this book for such a long time. I just have so many expectations for it and I have to manage them somehow and just pick up this book and read it finally. The book that I'm really interested in and I think I'm going to pick up mid-fall is Divine Evil by Nora Roberts. For some reason it feels like every avid reader should be familiar with Nora Roberts' work. She's very prolific and very famous, and I've been curious about her books in the past. So I picked up this because it seems very much like my cup of tea. It's supposed to be a dark, suspenseful romance about a woman that comes back to her hometown and is facing the things that she experienced in the past. I am a fan of this type of plot, so I think I'm going to enjoy it. Would be a weird choice to pick up books that I feel like I'm not going to enjoy. If you read this, tell me what you thought. The book that is going to be a nice fall winter read and that is absolutely humongous is Anne Bishop's The Black Jewels trilogy. It's an omnibus. I think it has 3 books. I am very excited about this. I love Anne Bishop. I know that it's an urban fantasy with a heavy romantic subplot, which is something that I usually love. I think it's one of her earlier works, and I'm not familiar with this stage of her career. I only read the others, and it's one of my favorite, all-time favorite series. I hope this one is gonna be as well. We'll see. This is definitely gonna be an at-home type of book though, because I just can't carry it around. That's why I prefer ebooks. The last book that I've chosen literally screams winter. It's in the title, Midwinter Blood by Marcus Sedgwick. For some reason I wanted to say Patrick. Marcus Sedgwick. I bought it full price, and I usually don't. I usually buy secondhand books or exchange my books for other people's books. It's just something that I don't do usually. Well, for most part. But I think I've heard about it somewhere sometime, and it just sounded like my type of book. It's dark, well, supposed to be dark. It is about some kind of cult or some kind of rituals, some mysterious, spooky, mystical things. And it seems like something I would enjoy. It's not very long, so I would be able to read it quite fast. I would like to not regret buying it full price, but I can't actually assume that. So these are 6 books that I picked up from my shelves to read by the end of 2023. In the comments down below, tell me if you read any of these and what you thought of them. And tell me which books you must read by the end of 2023. What's on your immediate TBR? That is all for today. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon with another one. But until then, bye.